Anthony Bates, everyone calls me Tony.
I'm Ali and I'm Tony's partner.
I'm Hannah and Tony's my dad.
I diagnosed with throat cancer. I was the biggest party animal in the Great Bar. I come home on a Friday from London and I'll be out until Sunday night. Every weekend I was out partying. I was an animal and I loved it. I don't think it really ruined me because I vaguely knew what it was. Because of the way my voice went. I'm like everybody else. I made a mistake. Put it off. When it's all wrong, come and sort it. Spot on. I had a lady doctor at first. She was alright now. But she was absolutely beautiful. I never seen my surgeon. To the day of the operation, Dr. Hamid. And obviously, what he's done, 8 years later, well 9 years nearly, I'm still here. And after 5 years, they say the cancer's gone. But I've had no confirmation of that. It's hard to say really. No, really. Because of the people I had behind me. Anna, Lee, Meryl, Steve and Joe. My doctors. They helped me so much. Because they had diagnosed me within 2 weeks. I was in the theatre. So I didn't have much time to think about it. Sex, drugs and rock and roll. It was. We got 4 mates, and 3 of us. It's all the same. Drugs and beer and smoking. We're all the same. What does that tell you? And we're all the same age group. First couple of days are hard. I couldn't talk at all. I had to write everything down. But then I got used to it. When I came home after 10 days, 11 days, went down the pub, I was writing everything down. And everything was alright, I felt alright. That's right. Yeah. That's when you talk, I love. The same one shots. When, some people feel sorry for me. And why are you sorry for me? Would you have got your own family? And then you'd have people that's already died from cancer. Well, they're sorry for me. Because I'm still living. My life is animal. At the moment, my life is animal. I hate it. Big time. When I go outside, going out, I hate it. When I go to pubs, I hate it. I just don't want to see anybody. Like when I was ill, February, I never went out for 4 weeks. Sometimes I used to cry. I couldn't even come and see Anna, so I couldn't get out. The end of the time I don't go out. But I'm not living, I'm just surviving. Every day is trying to survive, get through the day. Well, I gotta be out today. And I can't then see you. I'll go home now. And I'll be back for 2 days. So I don't know why. I don't go to the pub. I just come down here and go to the shops. And when I go outside I'm back. Oh yeah, I love that. I have said I do miss the demolition. Like, I went from one small company to a very big company. When that could have gone higher up, but I refused it. Too much paperwork. But like, the first gas house I done was in Clacton. I won an award for that. Then I went to Battersea. I won an award for that. Then I went to Southall. Won an award for that. So, I love my job. You had the project manager who come once or twice a week. You had the site manager who was there every day. When you had me, I didn't have to do that work. I was more like pointy, telling people what to do. Everybody liked me, so I do normal work. It could be asbestosis, because with asbestos, you have to have a medical every 12 months. The firm you work for, you have to keep your paperwork for 40 years, because that's how long it can take for asbestos to get inside you. If I don't use, the lady, who's got asbestosis, but you don't know where it's going from. You can be passing somebody, you've got to fight around them, and you inhale that. Bollocks. You can't see it.
Before he got the illness, he was the life and soul. He was a party animal. He was the one who cracked the jokes. He's always up for a laugh. We'd go out a lot. Before Hannah was born. After Hannah was born, I'd go out, say, once a month when she was little, but then we started to go out again, and it'd be the life and soul. We'd have parties at the house.
We're quite, obviously I'm an only child, so I had a lot of involvement with both my parents. We used to go out a lot, especially with my dad. Like, we used to go to football and things, whereas we can't really do that as much now.
Oh Christ, big time. I'd been telling him to go to the doctors for a long time, because he was working away in London with his demolition job, and he'd got this croaky voice, so he was saying, oh, it's London, you know, London air, and he smoked, and then he'd done other stuff as well, and then he had this lump come up by where his in his neck, by where his Adam's apple was, and I just said, you gotta go to, and he wouldn't listen to me, and the only time he listened was we went camping with lots of friends. There was about 40 of us, and we went to this place not far away, just for a weekend, and Tony was really ill on that weekend, and all his mates was going, Tony, you gotta go to the hospital, not the doctors. And he listened to his friends, and what happened was this lump on his neck exploded. It was horrible. It was just like, I don't know, it was just like pus and blood, and it was really, really gross. So he ended up in City Hospital, and what happened was he was in there for about a week, and he never even told me. He told his best friend Martin and Nina, that they think it was cancer, and he never told me until the Thursday, and they called me in, and there was probably 3 doctors and the Macmillan nurse. When they said, "This is Jim, the Macmillan nurse," I just burst into tears, because I knew that it was cancer then, and so that was in July, and then on the 18th of August, that's when he was. Then there was lots of hospital appointments between being in city, and then going for the operation on the 18th of August. I was thinking, what about Hannah? Because she didn't know at this time. I was just like, my head weren't in gear. I couldn't think of anything. I'd got 2 weeks off work booked, and they told me on the Thursday. I was supposed to go in on the Friday, and I just rang them and I says, "I'm not coming in," and told them why, because I
About 14.
was in the state. It was bad.
I can't remember much of it, but I remember being here at home. My dad was in hospital at this point, and I think he was coming out. So my mum sat me down and told me. And then I remember me and my mum went on a walk that day with the dog. And then we actually bumped into friends that day as well. And we told them, and I had a cry with them.
Not really. I suppose Hannah, and we'd go out. I'd have to go out, and I liked shopping. It just took your mind off it, but even when you bought the stuff, you weren't happy with it after. I'd got the dog, so he's loving, little Ted. I think we always happy with Ted. Our friends Nina and Martin, we used to go round theirs on a Friday or a Saturday night and have a drink, because we could take Hannah with us, because they got 3 kids as well, so she got on with the kids, and we'd be together because we was really close with Nina and Martin, and they helped me a lot.
Obviously I was only 14, so I don't feel like I would have called it a coping mechanism at that point, but probably looking back, I took obviously the dog on a lot of walks. Teddy was quite supportive because I felt like he kind of sensed that there was things going on, as dogs do, and I had friends and families to talk to as well.
Jo, my sister-in-law, and me took Tony in on the 18th of July to have the operation. We had to be there for about 7:30 in the morning. They took him down, and he was in the theatre for about 5 hours. I can't remember. It was just the longest. I never even got to see Tony, because then he had to go up onto a ward and have to come out of recovery. I think we got to see him at around, 4 o'clock on that day. And when we went in and seen him, it was a shock, because I didn't expect to see all these tubes and bottles of blood that came from the tubes, and they were all around his bed. There was just tubes and blood bottles everywhere. But he put his thumbs up because they took his voice box away, but they had to take part of the skin graft from his chest to fill in around his stoma. And it was horrible to see. I didn't want Hannah to see him on that day. He was obviously drugged up with morphine and all sorts for the pain, and it was upsetting to see him, but obviously Hannah and Mum wanted to come and see him.
When he was having the treatment for radiotherapy, I actually went with him a couple of times. I wasn't allowed obviously in there because no one's allowed in it because the radiotherapy is quite strong and things. But I seen the nurses like put him down and things. And obviously this mask is literally like, he had to be pinned down from here above, and with a hole cut out where he needed the radiotherapy to be treated. And it looks very scary. Looks something that I couldn't do at all. I feel like obviously when he first had the operation and things, he was in hospital. So the first day when he came out, I didn't actually go see him. He was connected to a lot of things. He had lots of tubes coming out of him and things. And my mum and my auntie actually went to see him instead, as they thought it was going to be more upsetting for me to see. And I went to see him the second day, which was really upsetting to see. And it was a lot different after. But not loads, because when my dad came out, he kind of wanted to go back to work, and he wanted to carry on doing normal day things, which obviously later on in life he realised that he couldn't do like the normal day things because it just tires him out and things a lot more now. And things like days out, like going to a football match, you can't scream and shout, so we don't really do things like that anymore.
Once Tony came out of hospital, because he was in hospital a long time, and he kept saying, "Can I come out? Can I come out?" And they wouldn't let him out until he did get out early. I think he was in 2 weeks, and when he came out, he couldn't talk, so it was really frustrating for him because nobody could understand him, including me. You'd have to write things down. He had books and books of like writing things down, and then they give him this thing that you hold up to your neck. That was really hard to get on with. He couldn't get on with that, so he couldn't wait to have the puncture, to have a valve fitted in his windpipe. But I can't remember how long it took, but it took a long time because you have to wait for a lot of it to heal. So he had the puncture done, and even though he's got the puncture, none of the valves fit his stoma because of the size of the lump that he had removed. The skin graft doesn't lie flat, so these little valves that are supposed to fit on the neck don't fit Tony's. They've tried loads and loads. But he can talk, but it does wear him out. So you can understand him now because we're used to it, but it is hard for him, and it does tire him out once he talks for too long.
Definitely at first. When we used to go see friends and families, ones that didn't really know how to talk to him things. Obviously he didn't have a voice at this point, so he didn't have anything, and he was writing a lot of things down, and people would talk to him as if he was deaf, which irritated me. I don't think it irritated my dad as much because he understood that people didn't know, but I could definitely tell that people were like shouting at him essentially. And then when he still, because obviously he still sounds a bit like robotic now, I still feel like people treat him differently, but not in a horrible way, just I suppose it's not something you see every day. My dad was diagnosed throughout like the summer period, so it did actually mean that my 6 weeks was actually spent more or less in and out of hospital. So it meant that not a lot of my school friends really knew much about it. Obviously my close friends did, but my school friends didn't know much about it. So going back to school in September, after it all like kind of happened, that was really hard for me. The school was really good. They gave me like timeout cards so I could just like give it to a teacher and being able to leave the classroom if I needed to and things. I was offered like support and things by teachers. I never actually took that though. I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk to a like at the age I didn't feel like talking to a counsellor was right for me. But it was hard because obviously at that age you go to your lessons and it is like, what did you do over the 6 weeks? Did you go on holiday? Did you do this? Did you do that? And everyone was talking about it. And I remember the one lesson we had, we actually had to write, it was in English, we had to write so many words for what we did over the 6 weeks. And I remember being like, I don't want to do this, like telling my teacher like, oh, I can't do this and things. Teddy! This is Ted. He's 10 now. We had him when he was 2. He was a rescue, but he's our little buddy that helps all of us really. He's really been through it with us all and he's been very supportive, even though I don't know if he knows what's going on. I did like train him and things, so he'll do some of his tricks with hand actions instead of voice. Like he'll respond to voices as well, but hand actions, so my dad can actually tell him to sit and things. And he responds to my dad instead of obviously us shouting Teddy. He responds to my dad by my dad clicks with his mouth, like his tongue, and he'll respond to that. But he'll only respond if my dad's doing it. I don't know if we trained him or I don't know if he just learnt to do that. I think he just learnt because he understands.